What do you think of Fulton County DA Fani Willis sending these target letters to several prominent Georgia Republicans telling them that they may be indicted in Trump's fake elector scheme?
So one thing I was very interested to hear was that at the federal level, it's quite similar. Historically, target letters were commonly issued to put people on notice that charges could be brought. It lets people know that they should have counsel. They can make a decision about whether they should testify, whether they should assert the Fifth Amendment. When I was a young prosecutor, the target letters that when I first was trained, I was told target letters were euphemistically known as heart attack letters. And one of the ways that they could be useful is when you send them out, it really is a shot across the bow to say, if you're thinking of cooperating, now is the time, because you are going to be facing charges. So it's sort of interesting to know whether that is also one of the things that is going on, particularly since target letters are not these days commonly used anymore. They tends to be that you just do this through a phone call to defense counsel.
How do you see, Andrew, how do you see the Fulton County investigation in relation to the other investigations, the other criminal investigations, or potential investigations of Donald Trump in all this? I mean, some observers think, or at least seem to think, that the Georgia investigation is the one that Trump should be most worried about. And today you had this significant development.
So that's a great question. To me, it's really hard when you're looking at this from a federal perspective to think of pulling apart just what's happening in Georgia and not thinking about it as just one aspect of the plan that the January 6th committee hearings have laid out, which was efforts by Donald Trump in a variety of ways, including pressuring Georgia officials, having a slate of fake electors, pressuring the vice president, having changes at the Department of Justice. I mean, a whole variety of schemes with one goal, which was to make sure he would retain power. So I think it's sort of hard if you're the Department of Justice to try and pull this apart from looking at this holistically. It remains to be seen whether the Department of Justice is going to be doing that or is going to be doing this in smaller chunks and pieces and wait for each of those to develop.
Let's look ahead for a moment. You have the next public hearing of the January 6th investigation slated for Thursday. It is expected to focus on Trump's inaction during the attack on the Capitol, a crucial period of, I believe, 187 minutes. What will you be looking for in that hearing that is of significance?
So one thing that would be really interesting, and I don't know where the committee is on this, which is explaining the 187-minute gap. So you mentioned that there's a whole kerfuffle about whether the Secret Service does or does not have important evidence, text messages, emails from January 5th and January 6th. But there also appears to be a very important gap in the White House records on January 6th. So I'd be very interested to see if there's anything that's going to come up in the hearings about what happened there. How is it? Is this going to be like another, to date myself, in the Nixon period when you had a gap in tape recordings and Rosemary Woods had to explain how she inadvertently deleted it in a way that I think many people, including myself, found very implausible. So that obviously would be quite interesting. And then what I'm going to be very interested in as somebody who was a criminal prosecutor is evidence that goes to Donald Trump's intent. What was he saying and what was he doing and not doing? We already have some evidence of that from Cassidy Hutchinson, where if you're trying to figure out what he intended with the mob that was attacking the Capitol, one of the ways you can look at that is to see, well, what was he doing when he learned it? Was he appalled like the rest of us and doing what he could to prevent it? Or, as Cassidy Hutchinson said, was he actually saying the vice president's going to get what he deserves, which is just an unfathomable statement to imagine that any president of the United States would say that about violence towards the vice president. So I'm going to be particularly interested in other information along those same lines from Cassidy Hutchinson about what he was saying with respect to all of the people who were trying to get him to do the right thing when they were seeing the Capitol and all of the people in the Capitol, police officers, politicians, staff, under attack.